next. Which I don't see her. By the way, I don't see her dropping her title anytime soon. She'll be showcased at Survivor Series. They're gonna do this thing with her and Asuka at Survivor Series. AEW preview. Let me see.
I just realized what you said. Oh shit.
Yeah, they want this. They want this. They want that.
Yeah.
A lot of things went on, and there was a lot of hoopla with inconsistent booking, revisiting, rehashing old teams and storylines and all these different things, and it could all be encapsulated with one particular team, of which started out and closed off the show, Retribution. What's your thoughts on how the reveal, whatever the case may be, happened with the Retribution guys? The guys, take it away.
Can't hear you, Randy.
Randall, you're mute.
You're mute, Randall.
No, I did that on purpose.
All right,
okay.
He censored for the.
You want to go first on this one?
From opening tip, from Jump Street.
Opening tip.
It was trash.
Crazy.
It was basura. It was terrible. Like, when the idea of Retribution came alive, I was like, okay, new Nexus or whatever this is going to be. We'll see where it goes. And then now we're September 21st, 2020, and it felt like Vince took a huge shit on the creative and decided to say, well, let's see how they like this. And don't get me wrong, thankfully they gave Mia Yim the mic first. I mean, like that was a saving grace.
HBIC.
What hurt me is what they did to my boy, two people. My boy Dio Madden and Dijakovic. What y'all, WWE, what y'all do to my guys, man? My guy look like a Red Hawk with the red
names no more. That's not their names.
That's not their names no more. Apparently one's name.
It doesn't matter what their names are. The fact of the matter is this. Y'all shouldn't have changed the names. They're still Dijakovic and Madden to me. God damn it. And the fact that y'all changed their names, like they from Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome or Fury Road, is a bunch of shit.
We are in the Thunderdome.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And also the fact that you said that, it doesn't matter, and then in the same breath want them to change back their names.
And at the same token, like, y'all beating this, Bane shit from the Dark Knight trilogy to death. Like, man, like, that shit died when the movie arrived. All right. After that, South Park did their parody. It was cool. Like last night, there was a Twitter post from our Twitter page that basically talked about the fact that it would have been a whole lot better if y'all let Ali continue his Mr. Robot-like gimmick and hacking and all that stuff, and allow, Retribution to basically be like the henchmen or the people going out there or his followers doing the bidding. That had some form of controlled purpose. And the fact that, like Ty have said for the last few weeks, they have no fucking purpose. They have no purpose at all. And it's like, you change their names like they're from primal times, like they're cavemen. They have no reason. Like, I could just give them their names and they would have still been the same person. There's no difference. And y'all did all of that. Like, the entire show was just Retribution everywhere. And it was mayhem and melee with no clear fucking purpose.
It started off, they started off the show. Turned out they had contracts. They're the first segment on Raw. They've been whooping everyone's ass, not been afraid of nobody. Hurt Business comes into the ring. They scurry off and be like, oh, it is what it is. And then they're like, surprise, motherfucker. You know,
That's a plot hole in itself. Why would they have contracts?
I'm gonna get to that in my rant.
go ahead.
Like-
Yeah.
Go
Okay,
for it.
so I'm gonna do this very Skip Bayless style. Retribution now. This has been going on now for about 2 months now. I liked the idea of Retribution when they first arrived on the scene. Why? Because it was different. It was exciting. Me as a wrestling fan, I like to see something that's out of nowhere. No RKO pun intended. I like to see something that's out of nowhere. I like to see something that gets me interested. Now, Retribution is a rogue group of superstars who, one, don't care about the money. Let's keep that in mind. Don't care about money. Don't care about being WWE superstars, even though they are kayfabe. And basically made their intentions clear that they just want to run roughshod and basically beat up every WWE superstar that's in the back because they represent everything that they aren't. That's their goal, so to say. Now, last night, they opened the show and they got contracts all of a sudden. Why, if they didn't care about the money, why are you giving them contracts? Why? I don't get it. Doesn't make sense. Next thing, why all of a sudden now you basically reveal them in the middle of the ring? The whole point of Retribution, even though us as wrestling fans already knew who was Retribution, you revealed them to the world already. Mia Yim, if anybody has followed NXT, Mia Yim has always had this turquoise kind of color hair. When she took her hoodie off, her hair was exposed. You already knew who that person was. They didn't even blur out her voice. They've been doing that for weeks with everyone who's talked in Retribution. Now, all of a sudden, you want to give them regular voices. I don't get it. And then they had on regular masks as if they were going into a store during Corona times. Now, how I would have booked it was, I would have had them had on, like, what's that movie? The Purge. I would have had them have Purge masks on. That way, you could still cover their identity, even though we all know who they are by now. You can still cover their identity, and you can still cover up and mask their voices. And it still keeps the essence of who Retribution is. You could have had them have the LED Purge masks on and just have them come out and cut their promo just like that. It would have been no problems.
I'll get to this. The difference between that I find with whatchamacallit, Retribution, and with the Nexus situation, and like going back to the Shield back in 2012, 2013, is the fact that they were already exposed to us. Their characters were already made and like kind of presented to us in a way. When Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins were brought out, yes, we had a tidbit knowledge of who they were, but they didn't have much of a purpose back then. Why? Because NXT was still growing as its own entity. NXT back in 2010 was nothing. So, of course, that was the purpose. NXT 2019, 2020, Mia Yim was already at Survivor Series. The last feud she was in, or at, like the last relevancy she had, was alongside of her real-life boyfriend and Keith Lee. And we were talking about
his ass beat last week
by Retribution. So
and
it's
here's
like
the next thing too.
So you know, hold that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the thing is, like, I think that the difference in the grand scheme of things, right? When you look at the Shield and you look at Nexus, back then situations kind of ran a little different, where we didn't necessarily break the fourth wall because we didn't have that CM Punk situation happen around that time. Now we're in this era where every now and then we get into a segment where a Randy Orton or Seth Rollins or whoever it may be may go off script or off kilter, quote unquote, and then break the fourth wall. So what's to say that they can't character assassinate them after this Retribution situation?
You mind if I ask a question about this?
Go ahead.
Just real quick. Did they, like, prior to this, say they were NXT stars?
No.
Or is it like we found out they're NXT stars after the reveal?
Not even. They have not told.
They don't even mention NXT. It's just like they're just thugs off the street that just came into WWE.
You see, that's where I have a problem, because like in the midst of a pandemic, and people have made a lot of criticisms about WWE basically acting like the shit doesn't exist in many different, areas of the company. But one of the things that gets me is the fact that, like, in this storyline, they're outside busting like generators, they're running in the ring, using the chainsaws and stuff like that. And they don't even, it's not like it got to the point where, like, you know, they didn't even have any authority figures really address it from what I saw. Like it was like, the commentators did, but you didn't see like Vince McMahon come out and say, I'm tired of this. You didn't see like Shane or Stephanie really, and they're on the show. Like Stephanie was on the show weeks ago, addressing the women's championship situation. Why didn't she address Retribution? Shane McMahon is on Raw Underground every single week. Why is he not addressing Retribution? Like, and on top of that, you could have played it up as like there are people within the Retribution people are within the company. Like they're trying to figure out where they could have came from. And you could have played into the fact that maybe they're people within the company. Maybe they're talents within the company that, similar to the Masked Man storyline from SVR09, where like maybe you find like Retribution gear in somebody's bag, or it spills out of somebody's bag, or you do something like that. But like, there's no feasible explanation as to how they're able to do half of what they do. There's no, like, we already kind of are used to the plot holes of WWE storylines. It's like, how did they get past security? It's like, well, what security now? Like, how did they do this? How did they do that? Like, we've come accustomed to knowing they're going to be plot holes because, it's a story, but like, there's still some elements of realism that allow us to still be invested in a sense, But in these situations, it's like, what is Mia Yim so angry about that she's willing to have her not husband, but her man bulldozed over in a title opportunity match that he really crucially needs? What is, like, even if you have the internal, like, oh, I feel like I've been overlooked, I've been this, I've been that, I believe in the Retribution, like a cult type thing, right? There's certain things that, like, they've established. The Mia Yim and Keith Lee thing annoys me a lot because it's like they've reinforced over and over and over again how close they are on TV through storylines, through pay-per-view matches. And then that happens, and it's just we're supposed to accept it because, like, WWE assumes that you watch all the products, right? They assume you watch NXT along with SmackDown and Raw, and it's like, well, if I watch everything, why is the continuity snapping at your convenience?
And that's the biggest thing where it's like where I'm at right now, because it shouldn't be up to the characters to get the character over and to wash away the sins of your past gimmick. Because Retribution, let's be real here, that's going to be something that's going
it's
to
it's a makeshift combination of
exactly.
Nexus and the Shield, where it's like you don't have the direction of either. Like with the Shield, like you said, not to cut you off, I didn't mean to be rude there, but with the Shield, you had the benefit of these are 3 new personalities, and the fact that they interrupted a major championship match immediately draws interest in them to where you could develop their characters over time. With the Nexus, it was clear that they wanted a surprise angle, and the whole idea was we're better together than we are apart. They spent this entire season of NXT separating us and showing our weaknesses and having us do all this ridiculous stuff, and we could have just stuck as a group. Look at how much damage we can do as a group. Look at how far we can get as a group, right? With Retribution, it's a bunch of mass hoodlums who claim they're doing this because they want retribution on what's been done to them. But a lot of the characters going into it, I say out of the ones that got revealed, the only one I can feasibly believe is Dio Madden.
Well, I'll tell you who was in the ring. It was Dio Madden, Mia Yim, Shane Thorne, Mercedes Martinez, and who's Shane, the 5th one I'm missing?
Yeah, Dijakovic.
Dijakovic looked like a retard in the background, just flopping around.
Hold on, wait, we're gonna get flagged. Wait, listen. Okay. Look, Dijakovic, I can understand from like a personal frustration standpoint. I can get that. Mia Yim, no. Mercedes Martinez, kind of storyline wise with Robert Stone, but she's been given a lot of opportunities lately to the point where it's like, if you failed on them yourself, that's no reason to be like. You have to have your own individual story and Retribution for it to make sense, where it's like you're pissed, but you don't want to blame yourself. How do you genuinely get invested in something that feels very wild and put together? Now, like, you could always tie it back into the hacker thing. The hacker thing could always pop up one week and explain everything. But even then, I feel like you're trying to, tie a loose end too late. At this point, it makes me question personally, how does WWE think of stables now? Like, I think that's a bigger theme with this. Like, this is kind of an example of what goes wrong with the stable when you just put a lot of people together. Like, we've been complaining for years about how they constantly go back to the Shield. We see like bad Shield reunions. We've seen DX reunions a decade ago constantly come up, right? We've seen Evolution return. We've seen the Hurt Business be formed, which is like the tale of two stables with Retribution and the Hurt Business, right? Where one actually feels like it's going to go somewhere and has a direction. The other one is not very promising. It makes me wonder, like, how many more stable ideas does WWE really have? Because with all the connections with Retribution to the Shield and the Nexus, and even the Shield when it was first formed had connections to the Nexus in terms of how it was brought about, right? Like, and I think actually the Shield was formed, I think, 2 years after the Nexus, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So it was still fairly fresh in people's mind, even though it felt like there was 5 years apart between the two. But, like, it makes me wonder how many more original ideas can you use with with stables, because it really makes me think WWE and other promotions in general need to push forward and be more creative with why stables form. How long do you really want them to be around, and what do you really want them to do? Because you can make the argument that Evolution on purposely was meant to be a reincarnation of the Four Horsemen. You can make the argument that the Shield was an original idea, but you kind of saw shades of the Nexus in it. Like, I'm not asking for every stable to be completely original. I'm just asking for them to have some thought and some soul put into it, some effort put into it, because this Retribution thing feels like a fantasy stable that a fan would would book without really outlining the major points, the major details that need to be there.
I just feel like with this whole Retribution angle, going back to my Skip Bayless-esque rant, they need to do they need to do one of the two, and to gain my interest back, which is Randy's idea to basically have Ali back in it and have him as the quote unquote leader behind Retribution. It would start to make sense to me. Yes, it would be kind of tying up a loose end, but it would have me more invested, because now, okay, that explains the hacker. That explains, a lot.
And
as
the
far as
brawls with
that
the Hurt
goes.
Business.
And the brawls with the Hurt Business, because the hacker also kind of mentioned the Hurt Business in its early stages,
And that
before
Ali,
it actually became the Hurt Business.
Ali's going off on main event right now.
Exactly.
So it ties in a lot, and it's just one of those things where, again, on the show, like, it's so easy to basically, like, it's right there for you. It's right
and
there.
the last thought, besides having a leader, the next part is 2A and 2B that I'm gonna make as 2 points. 2A, give them their actual names back. These names that they have for them don't make any sense. They sound like bad gangbangers in South Central. T-Bone, come on.
The Thunderdome.
No.
That
2B, the next point, you have to establish a leader. I feel like if you establish a leader, you'll get more people interested, whether it be Ali, whether it be The Miz, whether it be Dio Madden, for all I care. Establish a leader and stop making Dio Madden look like Predator, because that's exactly what he looks like. And he's the tallest guy on there. I think him and Dijakovic are probably the same height almost.
Or Dio's taller.
Yeah.
Dio's taller? Okay, Dio's taller.
I mean, it just followed a theme of the night where it's just like,
it was just an overall bad show.
You had the Kevin Owens segment with Shane McMahon, which tied up it showed some continuity at the very beginning, because they acknowledged their beef, but it ended up just promoting a Raw Underground match, which was underwhelming in the end because it was only lasted 2 minutes.
And I got a problem with that KO show as well.
Is someone gonna explain to me why Braun was there?
Braun's there basically to promote Raw Underground. That's it.
But he's a SmackDown. Fuck it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
everyone is welcome to Raw Underground. That's
No,
the thing.
they're
This
fucking
is the
not.
flaw. This is the flaw in Raw Underground.
Then call it WWE Underground.
I agree with you. I agree. It should be called that.
Or just Into the Underground. Or some bitch. Why are we here? Why does this happen so often? I don't understand. Like,
this is the flaw with Raw Underground. But before we get into that, the one flaw that I have with the Kevin Owens show in that segment, they had Aleister Black come out for 2 weeks straight with no bandage over his eye. This is how bad creative was last night. Did you notice that he came out with a thicker bandage over the same eye that he got hurt on? So now we're going back to this eye for an eye thing. Listen, we already went through months of this with Murphy, Rollins, and the Mysterio family. Now we're going through this again with Aleister Black, who they're not even focusing on that.
Okay,
just let Aleister be Aleister. Let him take the bandage off and let him run roughshod. That's what he's been doing.
It's to be honest with you, that's the least of my worries, especially looking at.
I noticed the little things. It's just me. I noticed the little things.
But like, you have the tag team situations where
that's another problem.
Besties and or besties. You have whatchamacallit. Basically, Zelina Vega splitting up with Almas and whatchamacallit, Garza, and then next week they're number one contenders for tag team titles again against the Street Profits. And then you have a situation where even although whatchamacallit, it was an interesting segment to say the least, it did enter in some little nuances. There was a 15-year-old storyline that pretty much was brought back to Raw in Ray's custody.
Okay, that was funny. I can't.
Okay, I'll take the reference as funny. It's just like a dig, but I do think like it does beg the question: how long is this story going to go?
Yes,
because this has been going on throughout the quarantine. And don't get me wrong, I love me some long-term stories, but like, if you want
some
like
kind of continuity,
like where do you want this to end? That's the only thing. Like, I don't need to know the whole schematic.
I'll tell you where it ends. I'll tell you exactly where it ends. And because we're already starting to see it. Murphy is already going to split from Rollins. That's already happening.
Is that a guarantee?
So that has been a guarantee. They've been teasing this.
Is Aaliyah going to split from the Mysterios?
It's a bait sort of deal. You could.
So this is my thing. This is my thing. I feel like they're going to end it with Rollins having a match for either Dominic becoming a disciple, not by choice, but by force. That's where this is probably going to end up at. This is where.
Well, then I'll tell you right now, if that's the case, this storyline isn't ending till next year, mid next year.
Okay.
More than likely.
I'm no.
I don't even want to. I wouldn't
say mid next year. I would say this ends probably by November, December, before the New Year starts.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. And I've heard a lot of people say, praise to Dominic and all this. Let's just end it.
Yeah, let's end it.
I'm like next week. I don't care when you just this is a universe mode feud.
Where else? Like, I get like.
No, I get it. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like it's similar to the whole Randy Orton, Drew, now Keith Lee situation, where you kind of just adding little elements, but it's still kind of the same thing. Where it's just like, all right, I was invested at certain point. I'm invested at point A, and I'm invested at point D, but B and C, like I'm not fucking with. Like, I'm not messing with it. And don't get me wrong, the individuals have played it out fantastic. What they've been given, perfect. But at what point? At what point am I?
It's the same situation we had months ago where it was like we had the eye for an eye match. It's like y'all did the best you could with essentially you made us believe it could work, but it was flawed from the jump. I think we need to find a way to write ourselves out of this and try something different.
But it's with everything that's on the card. I mean,
That's Monday Night Raw. This is Raw in a nutshell. Like
because I don't see, to be honest, and I want to bring this point up too, I don't see the Street Profits losing the titles anytime soon until the Hurt Business gets themselves in the tag team.
I don't care that they're champions.
That's the next thing. They don't like. Don't get me wrong.
That's not the next thing. That's the first thing. No offense, but like, has anyone cared how long the Street Profits have been champions?
Absolutely not.
Do people remember the fact that they're champions? Because to be honest,
I don't even know who they won it from.
When they keep wearing purple and red, it just blends in with their attire at times to the point where it's just part of their clothes. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, and like Jay said, we all agree here at the Backstage Brawl, it is not the talent's fault, but like, the Street Profits have held these belts for a minute now. But there's no division.
They're getting the Ambrose run. They're getting the Ambrose run.
Beyond that, it's just
by the way, it was Seth and Murphy they beat for the titles.
They beat Seth and Murphy. Okay. But I didn't even remember that until you brought it up.
I didn't either.
That's not me even being an asshole. That's me being honest. Like, it's been a very uneventful run with them as tag champions. Like, it doesn't feel even like, granted, their NXT tag title reign didn't last very long either, but I remember more from them as NXT tag champions than I do as WWE tag champions.
This is why they need to unify both tag team titles already, because you're already inviting SmackDown to Raw, and Raw can go to SmackDown.
Which brings me to my next topic.
Yeah, I was about to say,
unify the title.
Come to the right place. Go ahead, Ty. We were on the.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, as
shout out,
fans, we like to watch a lot of different takes, topics, and discussions across the professional wrestling landscape. And one of the newer members of Parts Fun Known, Adam Blampier, who most people know from What Culture and Cultaholic, did one of his famous booking videos again, where he basically booked what would WWE be like without the influence of Vince McMahon, assuming Vince McMahon retired or for some reason was unable to be the figurehead in the forefront of the company, like the main leader of the company. And one of the things that he called for in the new WWE was the unification of almost every championship, in the sense that every world title would be fused, men and women's. Mid-card championships would be fused with the exception of the North American title from NXT. The Cruiserweight Championship would become a singles belt pretty much on the main roster. There would be 2 tag titles, but it would be for the male and women's division, so they'd be separated by gender. And the Intercontinental Championship would be the only mid-card title on the main WWE programming. On top of that, there is a situation where they are fighting for custody of the WWE between Shane and Triple H, the 2 heir apparents outside of Stephanie. And Triple H and Stephanie would basically be working together because, marriage. And Shane would be like, well, that's my dad. So these 2 would be fighting at WrestleMania for the opportunity to own the company. Now, Adam gave us the platform and everyone else the platform to basically say whether they agreed or disagreed. I just ran it down for you guys so you got a quick idea of it, right? You want tag titles unified.
Right.
I don't. And I'll tell you why. The reason why I don't, and the reason why it doesn't fix anything, is a point that Adam brought in the video. If you combine divisions, it makes it appear more stacked. But it doesn't make it any better, does it? When you really think about it, I remember there was a point where I wanted both women's championships unified to make the singles division of the women's division a unified unit, where now you have so many contenders to go after Becky Lynch. And what did Becky Lynch do when everyone called for the titles to be unified, like the titles have usually been when you have 2 belts, right? She said no, because you're taking away opportunities from some of the women who wouldn't get a chance otherwise, especially in the hectic creative circle of hell, ring and fire, demons and devils coming out in WWE. And I agree with that. You want to know how I would set it up, Eric?
No.
That'd probably make you happy. I would unify the World Championship. And I would have the champion do what the original Undisputed Champion did back in 2002 and be multi-branded, where basically once you win that belt, you are able to jump from what show you want. So between
Okay.
Raw and SmackDown, I would keep 2 separate mid-card championships, the IC and the US championships, and those would be the pride of each show. You know how mid-card titles don't matter? Okay, here's a way they can matter. If there's one world champion, WWE world champion, you are the champion of the WWE. You are the champion of the entire company, right? So that feels important. These secondary championships are supposed to be stepping stones in that direction. Each brand having their own stepping stone is a good thing, because now you can see who's hot on Raw and who's hot on SmackDown and give opportunities to 2 separate rosters. And then the fact that these belts are specific to Raw and SmackDown, low key, you're the champion of Raw and SmackDown. And the WWE champion is the champion of everything. 2 tag team championships. Each brand can have enough people on their roster to support 2 tag divisions. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what you tell me. There are way too many people on the roster that they can't make it enough tag teams. Is BS. If Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler can be a tag team for any reason other than the right reason, you can do it. The biggest issue, the cruiserweight title and everything else in between, because those are kind of like up in the air. Where it's like, do we even have many women's tag teams?
They tried not to cut you off, but they tried with the cruiserweight when they first did the Cruiserweight Classic, and they tried to make it mean something, but they only made it exclusively to Raw. So in that case, what I would do, because you want your main champion. From what you're telling me, you want the main champion. Whoever holds this belt basically is going to be on both shows.
Yeah, you can have the cruiserweight champion
on both shows.
Yeah, you could have Raw cruiserweights, SmackDown cruiserweights, NXT. And honestly, I'd make the cruiserweight division the real workhorse title, where you could appear on every brand you want.
You know what? To that, not that this matters, but full disclosure, because you did mention they tried with the cruiserweight. They ain't tried.
No, they tried.
I mean, they only made it a Raw exclusive.
No. Because here's why. And to Tyler's point, I agree with everything that he said. If the cruiserweight title, picture this world where the cruiserweight title, or the cruiserweight champion, is feuding and fighting stars that are out of his weight class. That's all they had to do back in 2017. And they just did. Imagine Neville versus Cesaro, and they missed the bullet on peak face Cesaro when he was uppercutting people in suits.
Yeah,
and
there was a point in
an evil Neville, and they missed the bullet. If they just did that, had them intertwine, and then go back, work it into the cruiserweight feuds, I think that would have helped. Go ahead.
That's one of many things. If you remember the cruiserweight divisions from WCW and the first WWE installation of the not the light heavyweight title, but you get what I'm saying. The cruiserweight championship when it got taken over. You could still have catchweight matches. You could still have interweight division matches, but in the later runs of the original cruiserweight title, and then in the reincarnation of it, it became a doghouse where it's like you're stuck here. You can't fight anyone but people who are like you. And to your point, Eric, I think that the cruiserweight championship, if you're the head of every cruiserweight division, of course it's going to be a title shared by the brands, right? Especially if you're going to be fighting NXT UK, NXT, whatever they come up with next, Raw and SmackDown, is perfect. Actually, it makes the cruiserweight champion even more important. It has its own identity. Like you're talking about the Intercontinental title being a workhorse title. Imagine this cruiserweight champion fighting 4 brands worth of talent.
Can we return it to a light heavyweight championship title, please?
I would love to, but then I have to remember that Gilbert held it.
No.
All right. What do you want? You want Gilbert or Hornswoggle? Take a pick.
Hornswoggle was a main eventer by WWE standards at one point.
Unfortunately, so. No, but
twice.
That was a Mr. Kennedy fault. So.
Word to Ultimate Warrior's dying wish. We got to put the F back in. The light heavyweight championship is definitely one of those things. Like if you just put the name back, I think it would erase that connotation like cruiserweight, even if it's light heavyweight. At the same time, you can play with it.
True, but you could also make the case that you could just reverse the stigma of the cruiserweight title by making people care about it. Because when people talk about the cruiserweight championship, a lot of times the people that they talk about are guys like Rey Mysterio, Matt Hardy, Gregory Helms,
hold that.
and Gregory Helms was fighting Matt Hardy, fighting Batista, Benoit. Like, honestly, I'm gonna put it to you like this:
2007 Gregory Helms was.
And
he was Jericho before Jericho.
Dude, he was facing. He fought Undertaker in a championship versus championship match on SmackDown, and he put it as the main event.
And JBL even on commentary considered him SmackDown's best kept secret, well before Buddy Murphy had the nickname. Like, so, if you want to change the stigma, you got to put in the work to make people care about it again. You can't just, if you're like, no offense to what you're doing, Randy, I get what you're saying, but it's like, what you're doing is essentially what WWE does, where it's like, let me put it to you like this. If I took the WWE Universal Championship and I called it the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship, and I took the belt, changed the design back to the big gold belt design, kept the strap red, and I just said, here you go. Is it going to feel any more important than it did before? Even if the design looks different, has a different name. You feel what I'm saying? And don't tell me it would be ugly with a red strap. I remember that belt had a brown strap. Ric Flair held that shit.
First of all, it was snakeskin. Okay, Christian held the snakeskin. Okay, and that's the only Christian mention I'm going to say for today.
And that's why he won the best.
But the reason why I brought this up was because, like, you know, we all have our own ideas of how we would want the WWE structured. And one of the biggest things that people have been saying recently, like especially with the creative function, is, yo, get rid of the brand split. Start unifying rosters and titles and stuff, because it'll make things interesting. And it will do it in the short term. You're not wrong. In the short term, it will. But when you take away this division of the rosters, it's not going to bring you back to WWF in '96. You know what I mean? It's not going to bring you back to WWF when SmackDown was essentially Sunday Night Heat on Thursday.
You know what it's going to bring you back to? It's going to bring you back to 2002. And a lot of people like hold 2002 in a high regard, but there was a process. You're smiling right now, but if you look back, it was a lot of, all right, so where do we want Brock? We want Brock on Raw. No, SmackDown. All right, we got a championship. All right, we need to move this.
We were volleying a lot of people.
Hot moves.
And even beyond that, you could even make the case it brings you back to 2011 with the Raw Super Show era, where you had all these championships, no roster. You were getting repeat matches from Raw on SmackDown, to the point where SmackDown, unless you just wanted to watch wrestling, you weren't missing anything. Like, a lot of people tuned out of SmackDown by 2008, 9, and 10 anyway. But like, if you still were watching, you wouldn't really have to watch like during that period, all the way up until like 2015, like 2011 to 2015. You really didn't have to watch SmackDown if you didn't want to, because it was just going to appear on Raw the next week anyway.
Same matches, same everything.
And it's like, and that's why I bring it up. And I love the ideas everybody brings here, and a lot of the ideas people like. You guys are coming from a great place when you say these things, because you want to see a good change, but you have to think of it in the long term, because if you take away the brand extension is broken. We know that. But if you fix it, it'll do what it was supposed to do in the first place. You know, like, I would love it, taking Adam Blampier's idea, if Triple H was in charge of SmackDown and Shane McMahon, like, in terms of, because he booked a main event, Rock and Seth Rollins, each representing Triple H and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania for control of WWE, right? If it were Shane, let's scrap that. Let's put it Shane and Triple H fighting, because we know they're going to do it. Shane and Triple H fighting for control of WWE. Eric, you know how I'd have that match end?
How you got it end?
In a draw. Where Shane sacrifices himself and takes them both out, and they get carted out. The crowd, yes, I want Shane jumping off things.
Yeah, this is 2 weeks.
But here's the thing. It makes sense this time, because them taking each other out, the fans would cheer the match for their performance alone. And I would have it where I would book it the next night, where Stephanie McMahon would come out, give a status report on how badly they're injured, and say they will come out next week and have an announcement regarding control of the WWE, and that she will take over WWE in the meantime until these two are healed. When these two are healed, the announcement that they make is that they've agreed, because Shane would have 50% and Stephanie and Triple H combined would have 50%, right?
Basically, Flair and McMahon.
Yes. We go back to 2002, where Shane and Triple H realize, look, if we keep doing this, we're going to kill each other. No one can really win this. It's obvious we both want to take over the company and continue Vince's legacy with our own visions. We each have our own way of doing things. We can't agree on anything. You know what? Shane's like, I'm going to take Raw. You take SmackDown. And we will make our visions for WWE happen on our own terms.
But I don't work Tuesdays.
Fuck you. No goddamn way that can't work. If Shane is the authority, you can have Shane be the authority of SmackDown too, because he has ties to it. Triple H has ties to Raw. It doesn't matter who gets what show. But the idea that they're taking both shows, become the authority figures, and they mold the show in their image, Triple H can turn SmackDown into NXT a couple years ago, which would be reminiscent of what SmackDown was in 03 in the first place. Right? And Shane can continue on Raw with his own vision, his own innovative ideas, and make Raw entertaining but still sports-centric, because that's what he likes. It would be similar to the general manager idea, except you have two head bosses. Everything has to run through Shane on Raw. Everything has to run through Triple H on SmackDown. They pick their rosters. They each get their own set of championships. And you basically have your two you bring us back to where we were with the brand extension, except instead of there being a figurehead to represent a McMahon, it's a legitimate McMahon running the show.
You know, I feel like there's one big outlier that Blampede and all of us has kind of, you know, swept under the rug. Excuse me. Kevin Dunn, please. Just,
If Vince actually left the company, the Triple H's first order of business is probably out.
He got, yeah, we got to clear that out.
And y'all can't tell me otherwise, because Triple H foreshadowed it back in '99 in his theme song.
He did.
You think 20 years later he ain't gonna pull the trigger on that son bitch? Yes, he is.
That'll be the first thing he does.
That's what I'm saying. But that's why I brought it up, because I was like, if you literally set it up, Shane here, Triple H and Stephanie here, and then you can have William Regal, the OG in NXT, just running things on his own. Now it's fully his NXT because Triple H is on SmackDown now, right? Like everybody wants.
Or even if, like, just simply, like, you could just have the whole dynamic of, like, Stephanie just bridges it. Like, they don't have to like each other. It's just the betterment of, like, Stephanie bridges. It's her brother, and it's like
Stephanie can appear wherever she wants, as long as she doesn't cut a 30-minute promo every single episode.
Because I feel like that if they were to bridge it, right, it'll be the nice, like, crescendo, the nice conclusion to whatever storyline. Like, they don't have to be heels, faces, or directly involved. If you have one person, if you have two people against one, then it's like it's gonna thing. But if there's balance on some Avatar type shit, then, you know, everyone's gonna be better for it.
And
it sounds like something Thanos would say in a promo. But go ahead.
The point being, also them not being heel, and I know a lot of people are tired of the heel face bit, like GM or authority figure type thing, because it's been overdone, and it has. But I don't think authority figures have been overdone. People have been calling for the abolishing of GMs and all these other things that, like, you know, when like an idea is just
you have a GM now.
Yeah, William Regal has been the best GM in ever. And you know, another person doesn't get enough credit. Drake Maverick in 205 Live was a great GM.
Hey, now. Don't disrespect Johnny Saint now.
Johnny Saint, no, but that's what I'm saying. The people on the show, people are saying, yo, let's get rid of the brand extension. Let's get rid of multiple titles. Let's get rid of this and that because it hasn't worked recently. They think the whole idea is flawed. That's my point. On these other shows that people are not giving enough attention to, the shit works. And not only does it works well. And that's my whole thesis. Why would you get, like, I understand, like, I remember Salamonster brought up the fact that, you know, certain type, like, it doesn't, like, having 2 world championships doesn't make it feel that like, this is paraphrasing, but, like, he doesn't like the fact, like, he enjoyed having 1 world title, you know, back in the 90s. He enjoyed having 1 mid-card title back into this and that. But if you build the shows to feel like their own entities to the point where you can pick whether you want to watch SmackDown or Raw, because as a fan, you're going to want to consume everything. But if you can make it to where you can legitimately be Team Red or Blue, or Team Red, Blue, and Yellow, this sounds like Pokemon Go. But my point being is, like, if you can set it up to where they do feel unique, maybe the Universal Championship's the only belt you recognize, right? If we make it where I'm picking this not because I have to, but because I want to. Because back in the day when we were kids, you can make the argument, yo, the world title was more lit than the WWE Championship in this year, or the WWE Championship was more lit. But we did that because one show was lacking. If both shows are on point and there's something that pulls you to SmackDown or pulls you to Raw, and you can do that because you want to, because you have the option, not because you feel like this is the only way I can continue watching the product, I think you're in a better space. You're in a better headspace, and you're in a better place as a fan. So my point being is, like, I thank Adam Blampier. I feel bad that you lost your hair, or kind of did. I don't know what happened.
It was a whatchamacallit. They had a
Why do they keep doing this to him?
event, and he lost. So
every group he's in makes him do these.
Yeah,
like,
he took an L. He took the L.
He had to shave his head again. But my point being is, I thank him for bringing that up. I don't agree with everything that he said, but I do agree with some things, because I feel like it's obvious the company needs a change, especially with the way we saw Monday Night Raw.
I think I could sum it up with you, Tyler, on this. We've seen from creative a thing where they have hot-shotted certain feuds, certain character arcs, certain different storylines. And we as fans, though we've revolted against that, it's almost as if we are, I don't want to say we are what we hate in a way, but because of that, because certain things haven't worked, we've kind of done it ourselves as well, where we've kind of hot-shotted the whole ideology.
Yeah, we've been so fed up that we don't want to deal with any of it.
So it's the irony of which, again, you were like, Vince, why are you giving up on this? Vince, why are you giving up on that? Well, us as fans, we may potentially be giving up on secondary titles, dominating, shows and things of that nature. So there's different things of that nature.
Saying a thing I've been saying for a while. I know we got to transition to something else, but organization really matters, and it's really showing right now in the product, because SmackDown should not be doing this well. When SmackDown is beating NXT and making sense,
you're right, bro.
I've been Team SmackDown since I was a kid, but come on now.
Listen,
come on.
Brought that up that this has not been the best NXT, but they're still putting on a good product.
They are, but
ever since Vince basically started keeping tabs on NXT, I knew it was the nail in the.
It's bad. It's bad when I have not one word I have not heard since Sami Zayn, Roman, everything. We haven't had Mean Gene comment on Smack. I haven't seen him on a Saturday yet. We gonna get him on a Saturday at some point.
Because he's, in the words of Terrence Sharp, he's taking them fresh, hot in.
I don't even consider it an L. I just consider it certain irony.
He's taking a U.
It's still an
he's taking a U for unknown and understanding. He didn't realize it was going on. Now he gets that it's going on.
Yeah. But just basically, because it is Tuesday, there's a lot of things going on in the week. We don't necessarily have to get into all of it, because of course we do have the Saturday recordings, and that's going to tie into the the prediction show for Clash of Champions. Jesus Christ, so much goddamn things. But we do have G1, we have Impact this week, we have NXT, we have AEW, we have SmackDown. What are we looking forward to on this week, of wrestling?
I'm gonna highlight my favorite matches that they have coming up. NXT is doing a women's battle royal for the number one contender. I'm excited to see who's gonna face Io Shirai next. Which I don't see her. By the way, I don't see her dropping her title anytime soon. She'll be showcased at Survivor Series. They're gonna do this thing with her and Asuka at Survivor Series. AEW preview. Let me see.
I just realized what you said. Oh shit.
Yeah, they want this. They want this. They want that.
Yo, no, because like, if they give that match time.
But there's going to be a third person in there. It's just Bayley's the toss-up, because you don't know if Bayley's going to drop her title.
But here's the thing. I don't think, well, first off, we have to know, because I told you guys before, who knows if NXT is going to be in it this year? Because last year it was panic mode, and they turned it into a storyline. They could do it this year. They could also do Worlds Collide again with NXT and NXT UK.
They did both. Remember that.
That is true. They did do both, but
through circumstance. But
my point being is, like, It would be. I would say it would be if they did the triple threat with Bailey, Io, and I almost said Kyrie. Asuka. Love Kyrie. If you had those three in there, does Bailey become the fall person for the second year in a row?
Ooh.
They would say, okay. Before I know we're gonna get deep into this, but I'm gonna continue with my thing. But just to go on this, I read somewhere that if they do that, Io would take the pin.
No.
I believe.
No.
It shouldn't go down that way.
Don't book it.
You got.
But anyway,
AEW. Oscar to take the fall.
No, I don't want none of them to lose. Don't book them against each other.
AEW.
See that match you make, somebody has.
I'd rather they be captains of their own tribe. I'd rather they be captains of a triple threat team. My bad.
Yeah.
AEW. I'm looking at Brody Lee and Orange Cassidy for the TNT title only because I like the fact that Cody was defending the TNT title every week. I think they start getting back to that. Even though we all know Orange Cassidy is not winning that one. G1 Climax. There is a lot of good matches on here, and I cannot pick one. So my top two is probably going to be a rematch from last year's G1, which is Kota Ibushi and Jay White. And then I'm going to take, I don't even know. I'm going to take the Okada match, the Okada and Takahashi. I'm going to take that one.
I'm sorry.
I think those two.
I want Kenta to win so goddamn bad.
There's going to be some blood.
I want him to win too.
I want Kenta because Kenta just won the U.S. Cup deal. Like he just got a big. I want him to just win.
What the hell is John Moxley coming back to defend that damn U.S.
title? You. Who cares? Let me just let Kenta knee him in the face. And I love John Moxley, but seriously, oh my god, I need.
Impact. Impact is showcasing most of their women tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm more interested in the X Division Championship match. First they're doing a triple threat match of Trey versus TJP and Chris Bay. So we'll see who's going to be the number one contender to the X Division title tonight. And that's it for the previews. That's it. I know Ciampa's on the card for NXT. Ciampa and Atlas.
Ciampa.
Yeah. Ciampa. Pimp walk.
There's a gauntlet tomorrow.
Yeah. I just.
Pimp walk. Yeah, he's on the card.
Yeah,
he's on the card for
NXT. It's just pimp walk.
There's a gauntlet tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't read that anywhere. So there's a gauntlet tomorrow.
It's Kushida. There's like 4 men. Like I think the winner faces Finn Balor. In a NXT title match.
Okay, I can get down with that.
Kushida and Balor. I saw them teasing that on social media too.
I want to bring up one thing about AEW. I want two things I want them to do after their 1 year anniversary. I want them to make the FTW title mean something, and I also want them to make the TNT title mean something even more. If they can do that, I feel like they would get me invested in this second part of their tenure.
In terms of the FTW championship, because you see a lot of these personalized belts made everywhere, do you want them to pull a whole Taz and have them win the AEW world title and then throw it in the trash and have the FTW title represent it in its place? Or do you want them to make it its own sanctioned belt like the $1 million championship was at a point?
Now that you add the $1 million championship in there, I feel like I want to go with your first idea
because they could do. I mean, in AEW, I mean, let's see, World, TNT, Tag, Women's. I mean, a fifth belt would be like, you know, when WCW added the television title or when WWF added the European Championship.
I just want them to make it. You brought the FTW title back for a reason.
Yeah.
Make it mean something. Make it mean something. Because so far, has it been defended? No. Has it been showcased on TV? No. Make it mean something. That's all I'm saying.
Don't be surprised if Nick Aldis.
Don't just make it a nostalgic prop. Don't make it to
exactly. Don't make it a thing. Don't make it a secondary title because because Taz is upset because his guy couldn't win the big one and win the AEW championship. So it's like, hey, here, we're going to give you the FTW title and you're just going to walk around with it and now you're a champion. No, I want it to mean something. Especially
because, you know, to your point, Ty, like the option one, they teased it because he was in a title match. So, you know, in the world title match. So, you know, we could definitely see that down the line.
Oh, by the way, the G1 Climax, that's Block A. That's not Block B. I don't know who's on Block B just yet. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but that's Block A.
I'm going to see if I can figure that out. So we have that.
We on to, yeah.
I got a problem. Where's my boy Samoa Joe?
Samoa Joe should be making a return because he was not on commentary last night.
Last 2 weeks.
They brought back Jerry Racist Lawler. That's number one. You guys know how I feel about Jerry Lawler.
I don't care about that. I want Samoa Joe.
I do.
Can I say something? Because I'm sorry. I've ranted enough on this show, but I got to say something, man. With all the creative dysfunction in the World Championship scene on Raw, I hope they have something good for Joe. Like, I hope if Joe is brought into the WWE title picture, I hope he makes a splash. Honestly, it would be
heel Joe back.
It doesn't even have to be. I want Joe to press Drew so bad that
press him, choke him out.
No, you don't get it. Like, I'm talking like Joe takes the belt off of him and makes Drew have to chase again. You know what I mean? That's what I like.
But see, we could go back to us talking about this as far back as SummerSlam when Joe should have won the title in the first place. This is how far back we can go. We could go that far back to when it was Joe and AJ Styles, and Joe was just on promos after promos after promos. Yeah. AJ was getting flamed on the mic, and AJ rarely gets flamed on the mic. AJ was getting flamed. He was getting outdone in every way possible.
We gonna send an APB out for Joe because honestly, first and foremost, if he does come back and if he does get in the title picture, you've teased him enough. Stop blue balls on the guy. Give him the goddamn strap. Just give him the.
That's it.
There's nothing else to do. You're putting the black version of him up against Drew right now.
There's nothing else for him
right here for a minute, man.
What are you gonna do? You had him feud with the early adaptation of the Hurt Business. You had him feud with Seth Rollins and the early adaptation of the whole disciple thing going on. That was pre-corona. Now you're gonna have him come back to do what? It should be nothing else but for this title right here. Point blank, period.
You know, I'm not gonna
be over here. And first off, let's just talk about this. I know we don't want to do the predictions early, but let's all be straight. Let's call a spade a spade. No champion, at least in recent years of my memory, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but no champion has really lost at these kind of gimmicky matches like this. It's always ended in some type of fashion to where the champion won.
What, ambulance match?
But these kind of gimmick matches always set up something bigger. They always set up something bigger in the long run. Notice that Samoa Joe has been off commentary for 2 weeks now. This is going to set up something bigger. Whether it happens at Survivor Series, he comes back, whether it happens before Survivor Series. They need to, one, get rid of this whole angle of McIntyre, Orton, and Lee. Get rid of it. If you're going to do McIntyre and Lee afterwards, that's fine. And that leads up to Joe, that's cool. I'm okay with that. I can take one more detour stop before I get to Joe. But Joe has to be the one to take this off of Drew McIntyre.
Wait, so you want him to be a heel, right?
Who, Joe? Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I got an idea for you.
Hurt Business?
We're going to save it till next episode.
Okay.
We're going to save it.
I can get down with that. We
got to cliffhanger that. But y'all already know, Golden Child, People's Champ, Kid Dynamite, Diamond Cutter. Enjoy your week.